Fire it up. You're the boss.
Let's call a meeting to order. We have a roll call, please.
Mr. Januso,
Here.
Mrs. Rogers,
Here.
Mrs. Barnes,
Here.
Mrs. Barney,
Here.
Mr. Roach.
Here.
Okay, can we have a motion to approve the August 16th meeting minutes?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Januso,
Aye.
Mrs. Rogers,
Aye.
Mrs. Barnes,
Aye.
Mrs. Barney,
Aye.
Mr. Roach.
I have to abstain.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is the engineer's report. Lawrence project update. Kevin?
Yes. Is that on? There we go. Update on Lawrence, the collection system bids were opened last month and tabled by the board. They won't be ripe for decision until the October meeting. Bids are due for the plant rebid October 14th. So we got a revised geotech. It has three options for the foundations now beyond over excavation, so they actually have four. It looks like the cheapest option would be the rammed aggregate piers option for the foundations, and that'll lift the whole plant up, and we won't have to be as deep with the foundation. So, so they're going to have that option. We should get some good competition between the types of foundations. And then we also did do some modifications to the plans. There was a grit removal system that was in the initial bid that once we talked to the contractors, that had over $1 million price tag to it. And it was a luxury item, more or less. It was something that you have on some treatment plants, but it's not a necessity. And in this case, with the number of customers, it has been eliminated. So it's not going to change the function of the plant. Yeah,
Okay.
it won't change the function of the plant, but it is something in this case that's going to be a large cost-saving measure, as well as it saves some cost in the building too. So, those items have been VE'd. And then we had a couple other things along the way that we talked to the vendors about, things that pricing wasn't being provided to the bidders. So we changed the plans to materials that we know we can get pricing. So like stainless steel, there was no pricing provided on any of the stainless steel piping. So with that in mind, we changed as much as we could to products above grade that doesn't have to be stainless steel. So those type of revisions have been made, and the suppliers are trying to get some more activity on the bidding side too. Instead of one bidder, we can get additional bidders. So
Okay, and the plans, it was advertised yesterday,
yes,
and their bids are due
October 14th.
October 14th.
Yes.
So if we get,
Excuse me, I want to remind everybody to talk into the microphones because this is being recorded, and I just got notice that it needs to be talked into the mic.
okay. So we'll be able to act on the bids at the next meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Is there any questions about,
What makes you seem confident that we'll get more bidders?
A couple of the bidders that had dropped out last time, we had 7 people pick up. They did not get the jobs they were planning on. We found out. They didn't bid your job, they bid some other jobs out of town, and they did not get those bids, we found out. So it seems like they're interested now in this project. So the other thing is we're trying to do a better job for them, letting them know that it's going to take about 36 months for the plant to be built off-site, because it's a prefab plant, that they're actually not going to build this till next year. So that, you know, if they're bidding work to be done in the next 12 months, this project's actually going to happen after it. Some of them were concerned about the timing up front, but we changed the bid timing to 18 months. It was a year, because initially this was a 6-month build, but because of COVID and everything and supply chain issues, we had to bump that out. So we should get better activity this time. So fingers crossed on it. It's hard right now with bidders. People aren't taking a whole lot of work because it's so hard to get pricing. So Any other questions?
Okay. Okay, the next item is a motion to authorize signing McConnell Trails Phase 1A sanitary sewer easements. Mike, you have anything to say about that?
Basically, what it is we have an existing sanitary sewer in there. They have some future development plans to cross McConnell Road and possibly develop the other piece of property that they own. So what they're trying to do is get the sanitary sewer easement in place to get started on the extension of the sewer line. They did submit some pre-construction plans for the sewer line, and I returned it to them because it did not meet the requirements of the authority, so they're working on that. So at a later date, once we have the plans are acceptable, they'll have to do the pre-construction agreement, do the escrow account, and get all those ducks in a row before they can start to build. So this is just to get the easement in place for when they go to actually do the construction.
What other property do they have? They have the other side of the road?
The other side of the road is a piece of property that they own, and
I thought the old farmhouse was historic.
That was
think
separate, that's a
it's separate.
parcel. The house itself was on a separate parcel.
Okay. So they're going to develop around the house then? Okay.
that seems to be the plan. They kind of didn't go into great detail yet. So at the end of the day, when Walt and I discussed this, to do the easement, put that in place, everything was okay for that. But as far as anything else, doing the expansion of the sewer, it was nowhere close, so.
Okay. So do we have a motion to authorize the signing of the Phase 1 sewer easements for McConnell Trails?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Januso,
Aye.
Mrs. Rogers,
Aye.
Mrs. Barnes,
Aye.
Mrs. Barney,
Aye.
Mr. Roach.
Aye.
Okay. Motion to authorize signing deed of easements for TOA Phase 3. You have any comment on that, Mike?
That was they had approached us back in July for acceptance of the Phase 3 sewers from manhole 221 to 313. And there was some discrepancy on their initial application, so we worked through that, and finally we were able to get everything squared away that needed to be done. But again, this is just so they can get this authorized, we get it signed, they can get it recorded. But before we can take acceptance of the sewers, we have to make sure that all of the outstanding escrow or any payments that are due to the authority have been paid in full. So,
Okay. And somebody will make the motion to authorize signing the deed of easements for TOA Phase 3?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Januso,
Aye.
Mrs. Rogers,
Aye.
Mrs. Barnes,
Aye.
Mrs. Barney,
Aye.
Mr. Roach.
Aye.
Okay. The solicitor's report.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let me start by just mentioning an item that isn't on the written report. I don't have specific numbers or anything, but I did want to mention that the collection resolution that we did and the collection efforts that's been being made have been very successful. I don't know the exact numbers, but I know that Shan has been sending me over a lot of liens to satisfy. So that effort seems to have really been successful. The next thing I wanted to mention is with regard to the Lawrence project and the sewage treatment plant site, Ramel and the Property Owners Council did have a meeting probably 3-4 weeks ago, and the way it was left is the Property Owners Council is supposed to be getting back to Ramel with another number. So those negotiations are ongoing. With regard to the McCullough litigation, nothing that needs executive session, just that the Insurance Defense Council is currently handling that matter. But most recently, the Insurance Defense Council notified me that a notice of defect was filed by the Commonwealth Court indicating that a transcript had not been ordered and Ms. McCullough did not serve the court reporter. So if that defect is not corrected by Ms. McCullough by September 23rd, the appeal will be dismissed. And additionally, I provided an extra packet for you. I believe Ramel provides this as an ongoing thing each month. And finally, the last thing I just wanted to mention is that we did resolve the Steptoe and Johnson invoice. They agreed to compromise the bill. It was about 40% of a compromise. I want to thank Don for all his efforts and for helping get the information to them and working on this. And other than that, I don't have anything, so if anybody has any questions.
Well, since you brought up the Steptoe invoice, I'll just take that a little step further. That's in our packet for approval tonight. The original bill for them was like over $30,000. We've been negotiating over the past 6-7 months or more, and we've got that down to the 18,000 and change that's on the invoice right now. I don't think we're going to get it any lower. But my comment to the board is, since most of the members here are the new members, that to be careful when you hire, a consulting or legal help. I mean, their price initially, which I objected to, was double what our existing firm is being paid. So that's a red flag right there, number one. Number two, they were doing a lot of work that Romel's firm could have done a lot more efficiently because they were familiar with our work. So that's just fatherly advice for you. So that's all I got to say about that. Okay, the business manager's report.
Okay, your packets included the July financial reports. I just wanted the income statement compared with the budget that was in your packet was incorrect, and I included, or left, there's the updated one.
Is your button pushed on? Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
it's,
Maybe just, I know you're going to do this off the top of your head, but maybe you could just, since Christine brought the point up, that mention about, the number of people that have contacted you relative to the collections and with with that special offer we put out there to get some of the liens off the books. We've had a relatively good response.
yes, there was only 3 people that did not respond out of, I think there was 10 or 12 people that letters were sent out, and only 3 didn't respond, so.
And there were several that paid in full?
Several that paid in full. I believe there was 3 recently that was paid in full, which next month I'm going to prepare
A report.
for you
Okay.
guys. Yeah.
So you'll have more information next month, but that's just preliminary information on where the liens and that stand.
Yes.
Okay. Any questions, comments on the correspondence that you received in your packets?
I have a question, but it's not, and I can't see it anywhere in our packet. But the email that we got from that water leak on Fairway, what are we going to do with that?
We're still looking at a couple different options, so that's why it wasn't on the agenda tonight. So
Okay.
there's still some more discussion. Like I said, I did offer a third option, but in speaking to Walt today, like I said, we're trying to think of maybe a fourth option if there's something possible. So that's why we just left it off the agenda for this month. They, in speaking to them, they're not in a hurry to get the credit back. They just want to get some kind of a credit. So it's not like it's something that's immediate.
Okay, now, my question to you is being, it looked like that was a steel pipe going into a plastic collar or a plastic pipe, is that true? I
It
mean,
looked like
from
it
the
was
pictures?
it was a copper pipe into a plastic pipe. That seems to be the common.
Okay, so then all this water that was leaking, how did it make it to sewerage system if it was seeping into the ground by the looks of
Well,
the
the
dig up.
way the picture's there, if you look too, there's also our standpipe there for the sanitary sewer. So there's really no good way to say yes or no if it really did make it in or if it didn't. So that's where the question comes in. That's why we held it to try to see if we can come up with a good determination.
That was
'Cause
quite a
we-
bill.
Yeah, because we can't say for sure if it did or it didn't. So you can't give them a, 100% refund, and you can't say that, they got charged for all the consumption there. So we're just trying to come up with a fair and equitable for both parties.
So was that leaking for 3 months that came to like over 3 million gallons?
It basically, if you look at the initial readings from the water company, it started to jump up in May. You went from about 200 and, I roughly off the top of my head, about 290,000 gallons per month, up to 597,000 in May. Then it jumped to 1,838,000, and then when they really saw it in July, it was over 2 million gallons. But the other problem that they ran into is the first company that they brought out to repair the leak, it turned out that they thought it was out in the middle of the road. They dug, did not find it. So it ran probably a month longer than it had to because the first company mismarked where the leak was at. Second company was able to find it, and at that point it was repaired. So, but that's where we stand on that. So I will have a definite decision or a recommendation for the next month's meeting.
Okay, I was just curious.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, again, it's one of those things, it's hard because if that sewer line wasn't right there, it'd be more definitive, but again, we can't say for sure yes or no.
Now, is that sewer line, was that way above the leak? I mean, it looked like it
looks
was pretty
it-
deep.
It looked like it was underneath, but if you have to remember, that line shares a ditch with the sewer line, so it's all stone. So, that water's gonna go through that stone and just filter to wherever. So like I said, again, that's what Walt and I have been going back and forth on, is the fact that we can't say definitively yes or no, it did or didn't get into the system. So like I said, again, the best thing is to really do the research and then come up with a number that's acceptable to everyone.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, I guess we can put the Budget Committee on next month's meeting, huh? Okay, we need a motion to approve payment of expenses and transfer of funds.
I'll make that motion as stated.
I'll second it.
Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Januso,
Aye.
Mrs. Rogers,
Aye.
Mrs. Barnes,
Aye.
Mrs. Barney,
Aye.
Mr. Roach.
Aye.
Okay. Are there any comments at all from the floor? Because that's all we have tonight.
Okay. I know whenever you open your bids for that treatment plant, I guess there was sticker shock, just like it was for us on our Public Works building. Ours came in over 3 million from the architects and engineers estimate, and obviously it's not yours is way over that because it's a lot bigger project. But
It was more than double our estimate.
yeah, my question was, we feel we had the money to do it. I mean, it was that much over, and we can do it without raising taxes. So I just wanted to ask, assuming your bids will come a little bit better, or a lot better than what you got before, or is it still likely that it'll be able to be funded?
I mean, it really depends on what the numbers are. There would be so many what-if scenarios you could do.
Let me just ask you one what if. What if that was the only price you got? Would the whole project have been killed at that price?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, you would have to wait till,
I mean, the prices came in double. It was what, from, what was it, 9 million to 17 million? What was it?
yeah, it went from around 11 million to 17 million. So, and the budget was a high number, so.
Well, I didn't disagree with our architect on our prices that we got. He didn't feel that even if the supply chains get back together, get back on track, and labor comes back and things like that, if we waited for a year and bid it again, he doesn't think it would have come down. And I kind of tended to agree with that, because I think that when you estimate something for years at a certain price, like just say new construction at a certain price per square foot, if all of a sudden you go through a period like we did with COVID, where all of a sudden the square footage doubled, I can't see any of the contractors, well, let's go back to the old rate. It just seems like that they're still going to bid it basically the same, even though maybe supplies are better and maybe labor is more plentiful and some of the material may have come down. So
Well,
that's why we did it way over. I mean, the majority of the board it felt that way, that it probably won't come down.
In order to do what at the estimated prices that we were anticipating, we have a rate increase for the next 5 years for our customers. That's across everybody, across all of
The
our,
original estimate,
with the original estimate. And refresh my memory, how much was that a year? About a couple bucks, $3 a year?
Yeah, about $3.
About $3 a year monthly. The monthly rate would go up about that much. So, I mean, yeah, can we tolerate some increase? Yeah. If it comes in at the same number it came in before, it's really going to bring us back to the drawing board, I'll tell you that.
see with us, we actually cut out 1.1 million in costs, not the size of the building, but some of the kind of, like you mentioned about the bells and whistles, some of the things off the building, and we cut 1.1 million off of it. And we still have to award bids for the mechanics, the plumbing, wire, and heating,
Right.
and things like that. And some of the things we cut on the general construction, it'll also allow that to come down because some of the things were related, and say the plumber would have had to add more if we would have kept something in for the general, and so those will come a little bit lower. But again, with you have an idea what you needed to come down to. Or do you just, I mean, it's coming pretty soon, I guess it's, if you wait.
Yeah. I think the best thing to do now is wait and see, and then when we'll put our heads together at the next meeting and see if we can afford whatever it comes in at. I know, fortunately, the line estimate came in line with what we were anticipating. So the sewers will be acceptable, but. Double on a plant is really, or almost double on a plant is pretty hard to swallow.
Hopefully, the competition and more bidders will bring that down.
Again, Kevin did value engineer it.
Yes.
His folks did do that, so they did knock some of the extra things out. And from my conversations with other contractors, it is much more competitive this month than it was a couple of months ago. They're seeing a lot more bids out on this type of work. So we're hopeful.
The good news, too, was the components of the plant came in very, very close to what the suppliers had said they would. The things that was crazy number was the site prep. Like, that number was 6 times what it should be. So that's a local presence, and that number we have seen fluctuate on projects significantly. We've rebid projects, and they've come in 50% lower just because of different mix of bidders. So the good news was the plant components actually come in where they should have. It was, electrical was very high, and then which made sense, copper was up. But again, some of that stuff's come down in the last 30 days, so we'll see, 3 weeks. So.
Come to the next meeting, hopefully we'll have good news.
We're going to take our spoons and go down there and start digging.
Okay, that's it. Motion for adjournment?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Okay. Aye.